Okay, guys, we before we get going here, I think it's important to say that in anticipation of the hurricane coming through, obviously all involved, kind of in our thoughts and prayers, and in having been a part of a handful of these, I think the key is in preparation. I think you've got to take it very seriously and do your part to prepare. As we know, they can be very challenging. So we, I do think, just recapping the game, much like we discussed after the game, I'm very appreciative of our players and the staff in terms of their leadership, not only last week, but I think throughout the open date. Just the mentality that we showed up and played with early. I do think we took a step forward on defense. We played a good half of football on offense, and then obviously can perform much better in the second half. And in the kicking game, we continue to do a lot of good things. So definitely a step forward. I know you'll have other questions about that, but, again, I do think that it's important for us to hit the reset button and try to do that with some consistency going forward. And as I said before, if we want to be a consistent contender here and have a championship caliber team, we're going to have to play championship caliber defense. So pleased with the direction there. Tennessee has a really good football team. I think all three parts of their team present challenges. I have a ton of respect for how they play, the tempo on offense, but the physicality of the run game paired with the explosive plays, the vertical shots, and the perimeter concepts can be very challenging. And I think defensively they continue to get better. We've played them each year since we've been here, and I do think they've done a really good job on that side of the ball. Personnel and fundamentals, it's statistically, if you look at the numbers there, they're at the top of our league in most categories. And then I do think they do a nice job in the kicking game. It's evident they play really hard, and I think they're sound in what they do, and they've been very productive. So going to play in Knoxville against a team that, in my opinion, has a ton of capability and certainly has been impressive so far this year. I know they struggled a little bit last week, but in our league right now, heck, each week is like an NFL game. It's coming down to the last second. So we've got respect for Tennessee. Obviously, this is a rivalry game, one that has a ton of history and tradition. I grew up watching this game and certainly have a ton of family dynamics here in terms of having a history with this game. So we know the importance. And certainly our players are going to be focused and excited about preparing. I do think fundamentals are very, very important in games like this. And I do think you have to be tough-minded to go play on the road in this league. And that'll be part of the prep. And overall, excited about the week here and looking forward to getting to work with the players today. What do we got?
SEC now only one unbeaten remaining. Is this kind of what you expected or anticipated with the expansion of the league, that everybody just beat up on each other?
Yeah, I think that this is my opinion. I just think the personnel, because of the portal, I think there's just the ability to put teams together, fix issues on your roster. Get 2 times a year where you can address through free agency. You can kind of go patch up some holes, and, no longer, I just think all the good players at the lower levels are moving up. There's certainly a huge desire to play in this league, but also the teams in this league have the resources to put together really good teams and rosters. So I think a little more parity maybe. And then the other thing that's evident is it's always challenging to play on the road, right? So, I think in general, most coaches would probably say that.
It's still a little bit early, but any discussions about altering the practice practice schedule or the travel schedule due to the upcoming hurricane?
We have had several discussions yesterday and today. I think ultimately what we know is that we anticipate today and tomorrow being traditional, and then we're ready to adapt Wednesday, Thursday. And look, I think one thing I've learned, I've lived in some places that deal with this type of weather consistently, is that, you know, you play at 6, 12 hours at a time, you know, and I think you're ready. You build out plans A, plan B, and plan C. We did that yesterday, and got to have a good ops crew. We've got a great one, the UAA staff, to go along with Josh Thompson. I think we've got really good people there, so we'll be fine, and we're ready to adjust.
How do you think this team maybe fared from a tackling standpoint? I know that was kind of a little bit of an issue in the first 3 FBS contests, but did you think that you saw some strides there from that against UCF?
Yeah, no, I thought overall the effort, the energy, the pursuit, just fundamentally I thought we were better. And I think we did tackle better. Still got a handful. The one touchdown possession they had, that play in particular, we have 2 players in the secondary that can be better from a fundamental standpoint. So we definitely, look, we played well, but we have to do this consistently, and we have to continue to improve, right? We know that we need to continue to trend in the right direction, and I think tackling is a huge part of that.
How close are you to getting a championship level defense here? I mean, is it something you think we'll see this year or down the road, given the situation that you have?
No, I think we've recruited well. I think that the personnel, the height, length, and speed over there, we're developing experience. I think some of these guys got experience last year, and I do think that we're capable. You know, I think again, I've said this publicly. I anticipated, and we anticipated, having a chance to be pretty good on defense. Now, we haven't performed like we would like, but I do think the open date was healthy, and I think this past Saturday we took a step in the right direction. So, again, we've recruited. I think there's still a lot of good young talent on that side of the ball that's gaining experience, and we need to continue to improve, you know, all parts of what we do over there.
Line of scrimmage, you know, getting out to the quarterback, protecting the quarterback is improving a little bit. How critical is that to continue to progress with, you got 6 straight SEC games,
Yeah.
and it's a line of scrimmage lead?
Yeah, I think what you're describing there is a cumulative effect, playing the early downs well, creating some negatives, some TFLs, and then creating those passing downs where you can play coverage and go get the quarterback, and we did that better. I thought the coverage and the rush worked together. I've covered them pretty good, and I think the rush plan was sound. We did a nice job with the rush lane integrity, crushed the pocket, and when we did get a chance to finish on the quarterback, we did that. So I think you're spot on there. Got to play the early downs well to create favorable D&Ds where you can go get the guy.
Given the flux of the SEC right now, I mean, how much do you sell opportunity coming up in this stretch? The fact that, you know, you've got these games coming up.
Yeah, no, I think again, in this league, in the current dynamic, man, it's 1 week. You know, it's like you got to get consumed with preparing. And you got to prepare with some humility, you know, so that you can play with confidence. There's got to be a healthy respect for each opponent, regardless of the opponent, where you play or who you're playing. And then you got to grind it out, you know. I mean, I think each day of the week there's a certain self-discipline to check the boxes and continue to prepare and be prepared for the players when they show up to the building. And certainly their attitude towards that preparation is really important. So the self-discipline to do that consistently each week is, I think, can separate you.
Tennessee's offense the other day wasn't great, and Oklahoma even not so potent, but at home really puts it in another gear statistically, a couple of touchdowns more than on the road under Heupel. Could this be the kind of attract meet kind of game where you guys really are going to have to be scoring a good amount?
Well, I mean, I do think you're some of what you're saying I would agree with relative to home and away. In particular, the challenge of playing on the road in this league. And that's been the case for a lot of teams in our league, not just Tennessee. I mean, I think we would probably say the same. But in general, I hope it's not a track meet, but I do think that.
We're averaging 70 a game right now at home.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But I do think, like, ultimately, when you play Tennessee, there's going to be an element of strategy in regards to keeping up, and how do you do that? I think last year we were able to play complementary football in the game, and I think there's a component to that. But now, look, points are a premium, right? You do what you got to do to score. So, again, I go back to what I said in the opening statement. This is not just an offensive football team. I mean, I think they're pretty good on defense, in my opinion. Personnel, and I think in the kicking game, their history there, they've had some success. So they're ranked, and they've been highly regarded in the preseason for a lot of reasons. And I think ultimately that's what I see on tape.
Well, you mentioned the other night, like you used the word sputtered, I think, in the second half, because this is a 4-quarter game, particularly like on the road there. What do you think that happened? I mean, in terms of, was it what they were doing defensively? Was it what you guys were doing?
I mean, we had 3 possessions in the second half. The first one, we had a false start penalty. We had a mental error on 3rd down. We had to punt. The second possession was we got 2nd and 1 holding sack in the fringe. I mean, like, inexcusable play, So I think ultimately we shot ourselves in the foot. I mean, they had the ball a lot in the second half, right? So, but the 3 possessions that we did have prior to the 4-minute possession, we screwed it up. We missed the field goal. We had 2 penalties, and then obviously, for us to get sacked, to take a sack in the fringe on that D&D is inexcusable. We got to do much better there.
What did Arkansas's defense do so well against Tennessee, based on what you saw, especially shutting down their passing game?
Yeah, I mean, Arkansas has been playing good defense for a long time. It wasn't just Saturday night versus Tennessee. I think I've had a chance. We played them last year, and you just keep up with our league. I think they've done a really good job over there. But what I see on tape is really good fundamentals. They're playing good at all 3 levels on defense. The front, the second level, they're tackling well in the open field. I think they're buttoned up on the back end. They got good personnel, so I think they're a tough, physical, gritty group, and that's what I saw.
What do you think of Tennessee's quarterback, Nico, and what type of challenges does he present?
Yeah, I mean, he's a unicorn, man. This guy's 6'6", I don't know how much he weighs, but he's a big, athletic. I mean, he's ripping balls in the outside third, 15, 20 yards deep. He's throwing it, all the vertical shots. He's got big-time arm. He's accurate. He can escape, extend. He's just a young player who's getting experience, and he'll continue to get better. But a lot of hype around him, and I think on the tape, it's kind of, you can see why.
Did you see DJ make that throw the other night? I mean, he's growing up, right,
Sure.
before our eyes, isn't he?
Yeah, no, I think much like we've talked about, I think he'll continue to get better. The more he plays, the more he prepares in anticipation of playing. That's the compound effect here. It's like you're preparing knowing that you're going out there, knowing the team's counting on you. And I think we're hitting a little bit of a rhythm there where both those guys are playing well. And don't get me wrong, still at times there are things that situationally that he's learning, right? And I think that's the importance of the playing experience. I think ultimately both those guys got a chance to be pretty good. Got to continue to play well around them. But we're getting pretty good play from both guys right now.
Last week it seemed like Jake Slaughter and Graham were really working well because UCF has some exotic fronts and pressures. Is that something that you maybe show DJ on tape, and just in terms of recognizing it, hey, talk to Graham, talk to Jake, and when you're doing this live?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's part of each week. You know, I think the pressure variables it's a big part of playing center, a big part of playing quarterback, and in particular for us. And look, UCF, it was a game plan type of game. I mean, there was a lot of pressures that weren't on tape that we didn't anticipate. So some of the struggle there was a reflection of that. Now, they did a nice job making in-game adjustments. I thought the coaches and players did a really good job. So, but yeah, I mean, I think ultimately that's next level quarterback play, being able to redirect mics and protect yourself. And certainly with how we play, we give him an opportunity to do that. And he's growing in that area. But I think Graham, obviously, he's a PhD. You know, I mean, he's got his PhD in that stuff. So I think he's always done a good job of that. And I think just year two command of the system. I mean, he knows the answers right after the possession's over. Hey, you know, maybe we should consider this. I mean, he's like a coach, you know. So I think that's where there's a difference, obviously. But I think DJ, he is progressing nicely, though.
We've asked you and Graham a ton about increasing explosive plays, but when you're facing a high-powered offense, whether it's UCF or Tennessee, would you almost rather have a 15-play, 8-minute drive in a sense to limit their offense's opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some complimentary ball there. I mean, ultimately, we just had a ton of conversion downs, and we were able to move it. I mean, we'd like to make more explosive plays. That's an area where we didn't quite hit our goal Saturday. But, you know, you got to take what the defense gives you to some degree, you know, and sometimes you get caught in they're playing coverage, and you end up throwing the intermediate route or the check down. So I think there was some of that Saturday. But, yeah, I mean, I think anytime that you can chew up some clock and keep your defense on the sideline, you know, and keep the play count down, I think there's some positives to that.
Won 2 in a row, but I guess it's safe to say you're stepping up a little bit of competition this week. What would it mean, just from a confidence standpoint, to go up there and win, as far as just the whole, nothing will shut down a lot of noise anyway?
Yeah, no, I think, look, I mean, we have to live in the world of preparing for competition. You know, I mean, I think obviously we know the implications. We understand what it would do for the program or for this team, you know, but I think this is a big game. This is, you know, Florida, Tennessee on the road, and certainly a lot on the line. So I think for our team, again, you got to get back to we are in training for competition, right? We are in the process of preparing, and we have to go about that the right way. When we've done it the right way, I think we've got a good result, you know, self-discipline in terms of the things we do off the field, our practice habits, the focus and intensity on the field, and then just continue to prepare all the way up until we kick that thing off. So, and look, it takes hundreds of people to do that. You know, we get to play 11 at a time on game day, but today we'll have 250-plus people that contribute to how we practice and how we prepare. And I think ultimately everybody's got a responsibility to do, and you want to do the best you can do for the team. You know, I think if we got a lot of people doing that, it gives us a better chance to have success.
What did you think of Jeremy's 53-yard punt that checked up like a Mickelson wedge?
It looked like your sandwich right there. Yeah.
No. The skull over the green.
Yeah. You know, it was a unique field position. You know, I mean, I think we went back and forth there in terms of Aussie punting it or just to go traditional. Really unique in terms of how that happened, right? It wasn't a hang punt situation, but it hit the ground and checked up. So big time play, right? I mean, we're talking 5.05 hang, 55-yard punt. I think the op was like 196, and obviously it flipped the field completely, right? So it's one of the things that we did well Saturday. Every time Central Florida got the ball, they had to go the long field, so I think we have to continue to do that.
How just big a weapon is he?
Oh,
That punt, it looked like he didn't even step into it. It was like he
Yeah.
caught it and just kicked it like, it was like machine-like.
Yeah, he's elite. I mean, if he's not the best punter in the country, I'd like to see who is, So, and look, Jeremy is not only extremely talented. I mean, I've watched him improve, right, the way he's developed. Just this year, the finer details. This guy grinds now. The specialist meeting room is right beside the quarterback meeting room, and that guy's in there early. He stays late. He's an attention to detail guy. The thing you can appreciate about Jeremy is he's a leader on the team. Like, he is a voice. Team meeting, leadership groups, he speaks up. He has the ability to affect the other players. So he's a well-respected guy. He's a great competitor. It goes back to he was a real athlete before making the decision to transition to American football. It's a heck of a story.
You got run into on Saturday night, too.
No comment.
Jake Slaughter, I mean, if you look at his advanced numbers, they're among one of the best centers in the country right now. Just what has that performance meant, and what is his leadership kind of meant to that group?
Yeah, he's an anchor right now for our team and for the offense for sure. Just his energy, his daily approach. I mean, he sets the tone, him and Mertz. I mean, we got some really good it's a good dynamic on offense right now, just in terms of what it's like to go to the unit meeting, the meeting rooms, the practice field. We got a lot of mature guys that are tough, durable, prepare the right way. I think that's rubbing off on some of the young guys. I mean, you think about Jim DK, Montrell Johnson, Jake Slaughter, Barber, Mertz. Got some really good football players and guys that are going about it the right way.
Your offensive line seems pretty settled. You've said that before, but we saw Bryce Lovett get in the game there on Saturday, as well as Cam Waits. Just what has Bryce shown you specifically, along with Cam, that made you comfortable to give them some snaps at guard?
Yeah, we need to. I mean, both those guys. I think there's still competition there. There's still not huge separation. Waits is a guy who is a capable player, right? It's just we need to continue to give him reps and experience, and hopefully he can continue to trend the right direction. Bryce has really impressed us this offseason and spring, and then we just think the guy has a ton of position flex. We're trying to game experience is so valuable in terms of development, right? It just gives them confidence, and then they take a little bit different approach to practice and meetings. So got to keep them engaged, and there's not a significant difference there. So keep pushing them out there and giving them experience. And look, we all know those guys get banged up. So when the backup is more comfortable and more confident, I think that can help you down the road.
There's a lot more to playing running back at this level than just carrying the ball. What have you seen from Jaden Ball? He had a couple of nice blitz pickups.
Yeah.
But just from him in that pass protection, that's
huge. Always an issue with a young back, right? And I think part of their growth and earning playing time is their ability to protect those quarterbacks, right? So ton of responsibility and protection in our system. And I thought UCF in particular, we knew going in that was a huge challenge, especially the internal pressures. And he did a good job. He had a couple of key pickups on third down where we convert, So it's actually one of the plays I'm going to show in the team meeting today is the third down where he does a nice job on the double A-gap cross dog pressure, and then we hit Tank to the field. He made a guy miss. So Ball is he's a good young player, and I think got to play without the ball. I think that's what young skill players, how you play without the ball typically, to me reflects how much you care about your teammates, but also I think it's part of the playing the position. Receiver is the same way. So I think how you block as a receiver is very much like the running back position.
Did he come in with that, or is that something you've seen maybe him pick up quickly?
Well, it's I mean, look, the guy, he's a very willing player. He'll do anything you ask him to do, right? So these guys, I mean, him, Jacoby, Trayon, all those guys are incredible. I mean, they work at it, but it's just knowledge. You know, in high school, how many, you know, you don't go into a game and have a half dozen 6-man protections, 7-man protections where you got to understand your responsibility. You know, and for him, he was playing Wildcat quarterback. I mean, playing receiver, playing linebacker and safety. He's playing every play of the game. So, you know, how many times has he had to actually know what the front is, know who the mic is, go through a full progression. So just the accumulation of reps, he'll continue to get better.
Jeremy, kickers, punters, they're sort of off in their own little orbit. And maybe they don't have, you know, they're not considered real football players sometimes. How unusual is it for a guy like that to come in and be a team leader and for other players to respect him?
Yeah, well, I would tell you, not on our teams. We're culturally, we are 100% about those guys being, they're weapons, man. You know, and I think we got them. Rocco, Trey, Crawshaw, all three of those guys have a presence on our team. Not only the value that they bring to our team, but just their relationship, the way we engage them in meetings and practice. I mean, they're a huge piece of the puzzle. So specialists can be the difference, man. I mean, and nobody wants to talk about it until you don't have one, you know. So we happen to have three of the absolute best in the country. So all three of our specialists are alphas, man. They're in the mix. You know, Rocco's making big plays on punt coverage. You know, I think Trey has a voice on our locker room. He's a guy that can bring some presence. I mean, so not on this team. These guys they're in the fold, and they bring a lot to the table, not just the 6, 8, 10 plays that they play on game day, but all throughout the week.
They seem to have personality for it.
Correct. Yeah, we're always I mean, that's an element. I think I'm looking for that. You know, like Trey was a good skill player in high school. You know, Rocco was a heck of a football player. So anytime you can find a guy that has a personality, maybe they play other sports, maybe they're a really good soccer competitor. I think you're looking for guys that have that competitive spirit. These guys certainly do.
Did you get clarification? You mentioned that running of the kicker, that was a new rule this year. When you sent that in, did you get clarification on?
It's not back yet. But, I mean, I think ultimately it's all interpretation of, is he in the pocket, is he out of the pocket, how many steps, you know, once he takes a certain number of steps. I mean, there's a specific rule that speaks to that. And then you got to really look at the tape and what actually happened, right? So, again, look, those guys are phenomenal. I mean, that's a good crew. They do a good job. They got a hard job, you know. Can we agree to disagree? Absolutely. You know, but I think nothing but respect there. And yeah, we'll see what the interpretation comes back as.
Really different teams have different margins for error. I assume you've had a bunch of teams that have varying degrees. Where is this one for this team, the margin for error? You talked about, you know, you have a penalty and it really sets you back offensively. Same thing we've seen defensively, a big penalty. So is it razor thin? Is it, you know, do you guys not have a lot, especially when you're going on the road?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's what I would say. I think that, look, you have to be, there's got to be a certain level of discipline in terms of not beating yourself. You know, the first way you win is you don't beat yourself, you know, and I think, you know, ultimately, and then you also have to go into the game in anticipation that you're never going to play perfect. There's always going to be momentum plays. You're always going to make a handful of mistakes. So you got to be tough-minded, and you got to be ready to respond to some of that adversity and play through it. And look, on offense, you get 4 downs, right? So, you know, I think you got to have a good plan to get back on track. Got to have a good second long plan, and then, you know, it's about getting first downs. Sometimes you get that. You know, you don't have to. You have third down avoidance. Sometimes you have a great day on conversions. I think there's a lot of ways to win, but I think, in my opinion, the best football teams minimize error, especially when the